What's up, everybody? CJJ podcast episode. Don't even know anymore. But
don't even know anymore.
Something. So today we're going to talk about deadlifts and mound velocity. We've been running this data collection survey, whatever you want to call it, on Instagram for what's been like a month now or so.
When did you put out the first question? A month ago?
It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a while. But it kind of started because Steven was pretty much the only guy that I knew that had deadlifted over 500 pounds but hadn't hit 90 on the mound.
Yeah.
I mean, you hit 89.8, so pretty close.
Yeah.
But I kind of had this theory. Obviously, it's not 100% true. My theory was that if you can pull 500 pounds, you should be able to throw 90 off the mound. So that's when we started asking a bunch of guys. Personally, deadlift's been a huge part, I think, of my velocity development. I remember coming home freshman year during winter break and not being able to pull 315 off the ground. Couldn't move it.
Yep, I remember that at our old high school.
Yeah, at our old high school with you and Drake and Chip.
Austin Chastain, yeah.
Freaking squad. But I think at the time I was probably 80 to 82 off the mound. Maybe we didn't really, we didn't really gun a lot, but.
Well, we were still going to our trainer, who didn't necessarily allow us to pick up heavy weight, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, he was a great trainer, but
yeah, great guy.
Kind of capped the amount of weight. So
yeah,
I remember I pulled 365 for the first time fall of my sophomore year at Willamette, and that was also the same fall that I hit 86 for the first time. So went from not being able to move 315 to pulling 365 straight bar.
Right.
Form wasn't great, but whatever. But hit 86, and then at Driveline I hit 88 for the first time, and about a month later I pulled 415 for a new PR. And I'm guessing when I was at Driveline I probably had around that strength. Probably do that. I just didn't have a PR in my program.
Yeah, you probably could have pulled it then, I would imagine.
And then pulled 500 right around the same time I hit 89 for the first time. So there was probably a 3-month delay. But then that summer, the next summer is when I hit 91. And then at that time I think my deadlift PR was 515. So I got up by 10 or 15. And then now my lifetime PR is 535. Well, I hit 545 trap bar, but 535 straight bar, 91 on the mound.
Yep.
And then.
But yeah, it was kind of like you. I never went into one rep maxing except for once in 2016. Was when I picked up 400 for the first time. That was in the summer of my redshirt year. And then that same summer is when I hit 89.8. But I was that was before that. I was repping 400 plus when I was hitting high eights. Yeah. So I'm assuming maybe even at Driveline, if I would have attempted 500, maybe I would have got it. But I'm not sure, because then I came home and I think I pulled like 490 something, 498 something.
Yeah, that was one of the things I've seen with this data collection. For some guys, you kind of look at and think, okay, maybe what they're telling me their deadlift number is, maybe it's not actually that, because they probably have more in the tank that has never pushed it. But
that's definitely kind of what I feel like we went through.
Yeah.
Was like not knowing. It was almost like we were trained as quote unquote pitchers.
Can't lift heavy, can't lift upper body.
You're told, the deadlift's dangerous and you don't need to go over 315 pounds on a heavy day, and it's not necessary. You can do dumbbells and free weights and things, but then being exposed to like a place and like the internet, obviously, when guys are starting to like pull big numbers and then you go see them throw gas, it's like, well, why don't I just try to pull big numbers and throw gas? There's no reason not to try it. And I only felt better. It was weird. Like, obviously this is all obvious stuff, but for somebody out there that's in this situation, it's like, I mean, if you're doing the things properly that you need to do with your whole training program, and you can progress to your deadlift to where it's, the form check's good, you can get in these positions, and you can pull the bar correctly, there's no reason you shouldn't be progressively loading the bar too.
Right.
I mean, you're only going to feel better, stronger, like the data shows. I mean, we're going to get into it, but Lucas pretty much found that there's a pretty steady correlation to some ball velocities and some numbers on the deadlift bar, so I think it can only help you.
Yeah, I think there's multiple doctors or different videos out there where they talk about how being strong is never a weakness, so strength plays.
Yeah.
And I think the first sort of light bulb moment for me, because I don't think I dove into this that much in high school, but Jack Scheidemann, who was a shot put track and field guy at UW.
Yep.
He was Driveline's first strength coach, first one, but he was a strength coach there, and they had him pull down, picked up a baseball. The first time I picked up a baseball in a while,
Okay, I remember the videos they made back in the day. Yeah. It was a long time.
And he pulled down, and the form looked terrible. He had, no offense to Jack, but he definitely looked like he hadn't played baseball.
Not a traditional baseball throw. You didn't think, it looked bizarre.
But he hit 94.
Oh,
and it was like, oh, this guy also deadlifts over 600 pounds, as strong as an ox, and it's weird.
He's huge, yeah.
And I think he got up to 93 on the mound, maybe 94 later.
And cleaned up his, totally cleaned up his.
But it was just like, oh, this strength translates, even though it might be raw and it might not look that good. But, if you can't pull 200 pounds but you have perfect positions, you're probably still not going to throw that hard.
Yeah, I mean, there's some guys that are freaky lax, right? Like there's definitely outliers, but why would you want to rely on that? There's no reason to try to get in these positions if your body can't even produce the force needed.
So that was kind of my initial, I don't know if you want to call it light bulb moment or what, but throughout training and throughout seeing guys, it just seemed that a lot of the guys that were super strong also threw the hardest. I know for a while the deadlift record at Driveline was 565, held by Christian Meister.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Who also had their Mound velo max of 100.5.
I think I've ever seen Meister throw a ball below 95.
Yeah, and he's freaky mobile, and he has all these other things, but obviously he has a strength too.
He was a guy that probably could have relied on his lax movements and tried to do all this, but he went straight into strength.
So
strong as not.
Yeah. I just kind of want to preface this out with a couple things. First of all, there is no, obviously, formula where if you can do one or two things, you're going to throw 95, or there's no exact correlation in that sense. However, as we just kind of talked about, strength plays, and I think from a single exercise standpoint, I think deadlift's pretty indicative of strength overall. It targets a lot of different muscle groups, a lot of exercises you can do in the gym. We're going to target one or two, but you got to kind of have a lot of total body strength to be able to pull a good amount of weight on the deadlift. So if we have to kind of simplify it for these terms, that's kind of why we chose deadlift. And again, from my own personal story, seeing a bunch of guys, seeing myself.
I love deadlifts.
Yeah,
deadlifts are just wild.
Well, that's the other thing. I forget who originally posted it, but besides overall strength, when you deadlift a lot of weight, you're training yourself to do something hard. It's kind of breaking through that mental barrier.
It's that internal battle.
Just like, at least from us, lifting for 4 or 5 years in 8th grade through high school and not being allowed to go over 275 maybe.
Yeah, the deadlift almost seemed like a warm-up back in the day. Now that I think about it, almost like it was something different warm-up. It wasn't something all too challenging, which sounds silly because I thought I was getting absolutely after it. But, it obviously helped me early on. But like you're saying, once you realize how hard it can be, but how much it can benefit you, that's the hard thing about hard things. It's cool.
So transitioning to the data here, I guess you could say my quote-unquote hypothesis was if you could pull 500, you could throw 90. Obviously, I knew there were going to be some outliers, as there are with any rule. Just kind of looking at it, from a graphical standpoint, the data points that are further away from the trend line, it seems there are some obvious either deficiencies or kind of reasons why that may be. For instance, some of the guys that have really high deadlift numbers but maybe not as high Mound velo numbers, you could see that either they have some really huge glaring mobility deficiencies or maybe they're really poor movers. I forget who, but there was someone that had pulled either like 600 pounds and he had topped out at 87, and he sent me a video of him throwing, and it was just, there's a lot of things he could have cleaned up.
Right.
And that might just be because he doesn't have the mobility to get in certain positions. But I was like, okay, I can see why you are that strong and can't throw hard enough, or can't throw 90. Mm-hmm. And then on the flip side, we have some guys that are in high school that are in the 90s that haven't pulled a 500. That their max deadlift might be like 365, and you look at them and you're like, okay, like you're a good athlete, you're strong, but you're 160 pounds because you haven't fully hit puberty yet.
Yeah, you're also a kid.
So you're blessed with freaky rotational speed. A good arm, and if you a year or two from now you might be added 50 to 100 pounds on your deadlift just from getting older.
T-boost.
But let's see. So in total, we had 327 data points. So different people that sent in their max deadlift and max Mound velo. Some of those max deadlifts weren't sets of one, so it was my heaviest set of 3. So for some people that hadn't fully done a true max day, which as we talked about, some trainers don't do. Right. So for those people, I used a 1 rep max calculator, which I used back in the day and I always found it to be pretty accurate, actually 100% accurate for myself. So I remember when I did 405, I think it was for 6 reps, and based on that, my max should have been 480. And then the next max day, I pulled 475 for the first time, and I tried 500 and failed. And then, a month or two later, I think it was 8 or 9 reps on 405, and based on that, my max should have been 501.2. And the next max day, I pulled 500 just barely. So that's just 2 examples. I've used it a lot, and it's always been accurate for me, so I used those. And on the data here, I listed where the ones were estimates. So of the 327 people, 245 of them gave us their max Mound Velo and their max straight bar deadlift. 22 of them gave us their heaviest set on a straight bar deadlift. So, heaviest set at 2 or 3 or 4, whatever it may be, and we use that calculator. 45 of the 327 gave us their trap bar max deadlift, and then 15 gave us their trap bar heaviest set. So set of 3 or 4, where we use that calculator. For as far as possible errors, there were a couple people that I might have had some self-doubt about if they were 100%
honest,
truthful in their reporting.
You gotta think a little bit.
Sometimes people's egos are a little hurt.
Maybe on a deadlift, it's tough.
You want to pad their stats a little bit. So there's a couple that I question. That being said, I haven't been with them their whole life, so maybe they have pulled that. And on the flip side of that, there's a couple of people I look at. Tyler Ferguson, for instance, who is an absolute unit, and I think his max deadlift was like 435, and I feel like he could pull 500 if his life depended on it. He's a beast.
If he had a
so again, if you're, maybe using that, if you're used to repping out reps of 10 at 365 or whatever, then it's like, your first max day, maybe you just don't push it to the full. Intent sometimes harder to tap into, and that goes for deadlifts as well as on the mound. There's also radar gun misreads. Sometimes people might have higher numbers on the mound when maybe they only hit it once.
They go off the Rapsodo or some pocket radar. You never know.
Rapsodo, pocket radar.
Not to hate on anybody, just saying.
And then not fully pushing self, calculator, and then the other possible error might be the calculator not 100% correct. But diving into the data of the people that pulled 500 plus pounds, we had 72 that pulled 500 plus pounds straight bar max, no calculator. That they have actually pulled 500 plus. That was 72. 61 of those 72 people have thrown 90 or harder on the mound. 11 had not touched 90, so it was either 89 or less. So it's 84.7% through 90 plus that have deadlifted, straight bar deadlifted 500. 15.28% were less than 90. For the people with the estimate straight bar, we had 6 that had pulled over 500, so maybe it was like a 480 for 4 or whatever it may be. Of the 6 people with an estimate of a 500 straight bar deadlift or harder, all 6 of them threw 90 plus. So that'd be 100% of that, with 0 being under 90. We had 26 people that gave us their actual trap bar max that had pulled a 500 plus on the trap bar. 23 of those 26 had touched 90 or harder on the mound. 3 were 89 or less. So 88.4% of those people were 90 plus. 11.5 were under 90. Of those people that had given us their deadlift max, 4 people were estimated 500 plus on trap bar max. So again, a set of 4 at 480 or whatever it may be. All 4 of those people have been 90 plus on the mound. So 100% there. So in total, we have 108 people that have either pulled 500 pounds straight bar or trap bar, or have a heavy enough set to where their calculator for 1 rep max would be estimated over 500. Of those 108 people, 94 have thrown 90 or harder on the mound, and 14 have thrown 89 or less. So 87% of the people, 87.04% through 90 plus, 12.96 through under 90.
I think I'd rather be on the top one.
Hey, what?
I think I'd rather be in the 87%.
That's what I'm saying. Out of all the people, we had 2 people in the whole poll that had pulled over 500 plus or estimated 500 plus that hadn't touched 85. So that's 1.8%. And again, there's some doubt with that. Again, there's outliers, nothing's absolute. Some more data. For the people, so on the flip side, if you go based on velo, we had 195 people that had been 90 plus off the mound. 93 of them had pulled 500 plus. 102 under 500 was their max. So 47% of people that 47.69% of people that throw 90 plus on the mound that entered our data collection thing had pulled 500 plus. 52.3% were under 500. So pretty 50-50 there. For the people that, well, I break it down way too much here, but basically, if you take out one person in our whole survey that has had some pretty bad back issues and has a very low deadlift number, 100% of the people that have thrown 90 in our data collection survey had deadlifted at least 300 pounds. So again, most of those people are probably higher than that, but if you're not pulling at least probably 3 plates off the ground, it's probably tough to throw 90. Again, there's some people that are better movers than others and more lax and more mobility, but at least a
better genes.
Basic strength level of pulling 300 plus seems to be a necessity to throwing 90. For just breaking down straight bar, because that's the one that I was originally doing this pull for, of the 72 people that had pulled 500 plus on straight bar, this is with regular and estimates, 60 of those people had been 90 plus, 72 have been 85 plus. So 100% of people that have pulled or estimated pulled 500 plus on straight bar had been 85 or higher on the mound, with 83% of those people being 90 plus. The people that were 450 to 499 as their max or estimated max, 74% were 90 plus, 95% were 85 plus. For the people that were 40 to 449, there were 65 of those people. 43% of them were 90 plus, 89% of them were 85 plus. For 350 to 399, 13 of them, of the 32 were 90 plus, that's 40%. 26 of the 32 were 85%, that's 81%. And then for the people that were basically under 300, we had 9, and we only had one person again that was under 300 at 390, and he had a really bad back. Most of the people were in the 80 to 85 range for those people. So that's a lot of data to throw at you.
Yeah, but I mean, just there's trends, right? I mean, if you were to watch that and you piece it, each part of that together, you'd notice, either some outliers, of course, but that's with every situation ever in the history of mankind. I think it'd be safer to err on the side of, success and what the data shows. And I'm sure there's plenty of other resources where the data shows power output from a deadlift or, as we're talking about, or whatever it may be. There's no magic pill here, but the power output created from a deadlift, I'm imagining, as the data shows, like, and in my playing career, your playing career, and a bunch of guys I trained with myself, it just shows that, what you can do there, you probably can translate to the mound and what you can do with ball velocity. So, I mean, why not, err on the side of success, like I said.
And I'll put the pictures of the graphs. I had a bunch of different graphs in here with the trend lines in them. And for the trend line, for kind of all the data points, it seems that there's about a 10 pound to 1 mile per hour slope. So basically, if your deadlift goes up 10 pounds, you're going to add 1 mile per hour. Again, it's not a guarantee, but that's just kind of the trend line and the slope of it. It might be closer to 9.5 to 1 because it was a little less than 10 pounds. But basically, again, we talked about the further you go from the line, the more obvious the deficiencies are. There's a kid I played with at Westmont that I think ran to 85 and was pretty athletic, pretty whippy, but was super small.
Yeah. No
offense, but he definitely was a late bloomer as far as puberty goes, and his deadlift was super down, but he was like 85. So again, that's another dot on this graph that's kind of far off the line. Right. And then on the flip side, bad movers. So, yeah, I mean, I guess in conclusion.
Well, yeah, and also, I mean, just to go off that too, it's not like all, you don't go to your local bodybuilding gym and just say, hey, you must be able to throw 95 or 90. You're the biggest guy. And then we're talking, baseball athletes in the realm, but I mean, in the realm of training, baseball players, but I'm sure that a big bodybuilder, if he trained, maybe could find his way to a 90 mark. You never know.
Jack Shotman, keep going back to that. But so there's a million factors injury, mobility, sequencing, all this stuff plays into ball velocity on the mound. However, strength seems to be a pretty big factor, a pretty indicative factor.
Right.
And
just, what you can produce up there, it's the deadlift, like that posterior chain is just like strength, stability. You got hamstrings, your lower back, even your upper back. You start getting a pull. I mean, you got to be pretty strong to move some heavy weight the proper way. And that's another thing with this. Don't go all egotistical and try to go 1 rep max every week. That's not what we're trying to say either. It's a progression, right? So you progress. You challenge yourself. Some strength coaches don't like 1 rep maxes for the reason of the ego can get in the way, which is fine. Do a 3 RM if you have to, and then maybe
use a calculator.
Just like Lou said. I mean, that's a situation that's perfectly okay. You don't have to say, hey, I have to 1 rep max. I got to throw 90. It's like, no, just challenge yourself within the constraints of your programming, And if you're doing everything right and you're, benefiting and you're doing like I said, the proper form, which is tough, and you learn it, the stability and the strength, I would imagine translates right to the mound, because that's what pitching is. It's a mix of mobility, strength, and stability. So
definitely,
it's gonna be right.
But yeah, I can also share this data with any of you guys if you guys want. It's all on a Google Sheet, so I can send you guys a link. Just DM us, let us know if you have any more questions.
Can we put a link on YouTube under the show notes?
I think we can, probably.
Sure, maybe we'll try that. I don't know.
But also, yeah, if you have any questions, there's so much you can do with this data. Dive into. I broke it down probably too much.
Yeah. Well, no, it's cool because maybe any of you guys that submitted now and you're still playing or whatever, or you're just washed up and your deadlift goes up in the next 12 weeks or something.
See what happens.
And you throw a ball and you hit a better number. Tell us.
Well, that happened to Cisco. So I asked Cisco Prado, who's a kid that we played with, and
catch it.
He told me that I think his deadlift was like 390 or something, and he was like 85 or 86.
I definitely never saw him deadlift before or work out. So I mean, he was strong though. Yeah. He definitely worked out, but I mean, I never.
But he texted me just the other day, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I hit 88.9 off the mound the other day." So
there you go.
Obviously, this data is always changing. Guys are going harder, gaining strength.
Strong motherfucker. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess bottom line is deadlift seems to be some correlation. If you can add some strength and get stronger in a deadlift, obviously progress it. As Steven said, don't go crazy about it as a sense of.
Obviously, right now, do your best.
Do your best
for what's going on out there in the crazy world.
If you can improve your deadlift, it seems as if your velo numbers.
Let us know. You never know. Tap in. Tell us if this data works for you. If what's going on.
And if you have any questions, let us know.
Yeah, hit us up. DM us something.
Take it easy.
Later, guys.
Peace.